I simply cannot marry into poverty. That was the whisper that ended my relationship. My girlfriend broke up with me in a conversation that lasted less than 10 minutes. This happened right after we had dinner at my parents' modest 1970s ranch-style home. My response was a quiet okay. I went back to my routine, burying myself in work, until a newspaper headline exposed everything. This week, I learned something profound about myself. It turns out I have been using my family's lifestyle as an unintended filter for romantic partners. I didn't even realize I was doing it until someone failed the test in a spectacular fashion. The breakup itself was quick, but it has taken me 3 days to fully process the events. It wasn't the separation that shocked me, as that was likely inevitable, but rather the assumptions that caused it. Those assumptions revealed the true character of a woman I had been dating for 8 months. I work as a marine biology professor at a state university in our small coastal town. It is not a glamorous career, but I am passionate about it. My life revolves around research, teaching, and spending hours in tide pools or on research vessels. To the outside observer, my life looks very modest, which apparently was the issue. Sable had been my girlfriend since last spring. She works in pharmaceutical sales, drives a leased luxury car, and lives in a high-end downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows. She is smart, ambitious, and always dressed impeccably. We met at a professional mixer, and I was genuinely surprised that someone like her would be interested in a professor who often shows up to dates with sand in his hair. Last weekend was the first time I brought her home to meet my parents. I wasn't hiding anything. My parents simply live an hour up the coast in the house I grew up in, and our schedules hadn't aligned until then. The drive up was pleasant enough. Sable seemed curious, asking about my childhood and joking about meeting the people who raised me. Everything changed when we pulled into the driveway. My parents' house is a modest 3-bedroom ranch from the 70s, about 1,500 square feet, with brown shag carpet and wood paneling. The furniture has been reupholstered multiple times because my mother hates waste. My dad's truck in the driveway is older than I am, but he maintains it perfectly. As we walked to the door, I saw Sable's demeanor shift. She became quiet, scanning the property as if she were appraising its value. Dinner featured my mom's signature tuna casserole served on the original wedding china. The conversation was normal. My dad shared stories from his day, and my mom asked about Sable's job, but the tension radiating from Sable was palpable. Halfway through the meal, she asked my dad about his career plans. He is 64 and has been retired for 3 years, yet she asked as if she believed he was unemployed and destitute. When my mom mentioned shopping at a thrift store for a baby gift, Sable visibly winced. The drive back was incredibly silent. I assumed she was just overwhelmed by the introduction to the family. The next morning, she called me. Her voice was careful and measured as she said, "Graham, I need to be honest. I really like you, but I can't marry into poverty. I need financial security, and your family situation isn't compatible with the life I want. Marry into poverty." That is how she perceived my parents' life. "I understand," I replied. "I hope you find what you're looking for." She seemed shocked that I didn't fight for her. But what could I say? That she was wrong to judge my parents' values? Here is what she didn't know, and what I hadn't mentioned because it never felt relevant. My parents had recently decided to use their life savings for something significant. After 35 years of living frugally and investing wisely, they were ready to make a move that would surprise everyone. The breakup didn't bother me as much as the realization that in 8 months, Sable never asked about my family's history or values. She saw old furniture and assumed we were destitute. Maybe this was my fault for not explaining our philosophy on money. Or maybe it was exactly the filter I needed. Regardless, I spent the weekend working in tide pools with my team, surrounded by people who understand that true substance isn't always visible on the surface. Reading the online responses to my story has been validating. Many of you pointed out that her reaction reflects her shallow priorities rather than my family's worth. For those curious about my parents' actual situation, let's just say appearances are deceiving. They believe in living modestly, regardless of their net worth. Some call it old-fashioned, I call it having your priorities straight. My colleague Finn just texted me after seeing my post asking if she knew about my parents. I guess everyone in my department knew something Sable never bothered to ask. Then, things got interesting. Thursday morning, I was prepping for my marine ecology class when Finn knocked on my door, holding a local newspaper and grinning. "You need to see this," he said. On the front page of the lifestyle section was the headline, "Local couple makes anonymous $50 million donation to new marine research facility." The article detailed how Robert and Margaret Lott, my parents, had funded an entire center for coastal ecosystem preservation. The facility will be named the Graham Lott Marine Research Center. They had been planning this for months. The something they wanted to do with their savings was funding the research facility I had dreamed of my whole career. The article noted that my father had sold a regional waste management company for a fortune and that he and my mother preferred to give back quietly. $50 million from the people Sable thought were living in poverty. By lunch, my phone was blowing up with messages. The university president called to congratulate me, and the dean mentioned fast-tracking my tenure. But the strangest call came at 3 p.m. It was Sable. I let it go to voicemail, but she called repeatedly until I answered. Her tone was completely different, nervous and breathless. "Graham, I saw the article. I think there was a misunderstanding about your family's situation. I feel terrible about how things ended. Can we talk?" I told her I'd think about it and hung up. Finn shook his head and said, "Some people only see value when it's printed in a newspaper. The issue isn't that she called, it's that she called the day the article ran. She could have called any time in the last week." My parents taught me that real wealth whispers while fake wealth shouts. Sable heard whispers and assumed silence. Now that the money is shouting from the front page, she claims it was a misunderstanding. I am starting to realize the misunderstanding was mine thinking 8 months was enough to know someone. As for calling her back, I am not sure. Part of me is curious to hear her explain herself. My mom called this morning laughing because 3 people at the grocery store asked if I was single. Small town dynamics are amusing. The university is already fielding calls from researchers wanting to work at the new center. My parents' gift is changing more than just my career. I thought the newspaper article would be the end of it, but I was wrong. Some people handle being wrong about wealth by doubling down. Last Tuesday, my mom called me at work, sounding concerned. "Honey, I had the strangest call from Sable. She said she was worried about your emotional state after the breakup." Concerned about me? But then my mom continued. She started asking specific questions about family business opportunities and if we needed partners for future investments. She asked if you were involved in the finances and proposed a meeting for mutually beneficial arrangements. She kept calling me Mrs. Lott like it was a business pitch. My mother, a retired teacher who can spot a lie from a mile away, recorded the call. She knows to document things when people are being manipulative. Wednesday morning, I was setting up dive equipment when Sable's BMW pulled into the university lot. She walked into the marine science building in a business suit, looking out of place. "Graham," she said when she found me. "I'm so glad I found you. We need to talk." Ben was nearby, listening. "I owe you an apology," she continued. "I misunderstood your family's situation. I judged your parents' lifestyle choices." She spoke as if modesty was a quirky habit rather than a core value. She then opened a leather portfolio. "I've been thinking about us. I realized I focused too much on security and missed the big picture. I've been researching marine conservation investments. With your expertise and your parents' resources, we could build something amazing." "Build something together?" I asked. I pulled out my phone and played my mother's recording. Sable's voice filled the room. "Mrs. Lott, I'm wondering if you and Robert might be interested in discussing mutually beneficial arrangements." The color drained from her face. "You called my mother pretending to be worried about me," I said, and then pitched her a business deal. Then stopped pretending to work and just stared. Sable stammered. I was concerned. "But we are practical people. You have resources, I have business experience. It makes sense." "What makes sense?" I replied. "Is that you dumped me because you thought we were poor, and now you want back in because you know we aren't." She tried to argue that relationships need financial compatibility and that we could have love and success. I asked her to leave. "Don't let pride ruin this," she said. "It's not pride," I told her. "It's knowing the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves what you can do for them." After she left, Finn called it the most mercenary act he had ever witnessed. My parents were proud of how I handled it. My dad said, "Some people see opportunities where they should see relationships." 2 years later, my life is completely different. The Marine Research Center opened last fall, and I am the youngest department head in the university's history. The work we are doing is gaining national attention. But the best part has been finding someone who chose me for who I am. I met Jessica about 18 months ago. She is the bank manager who helped coordinate the paperwork for the donation. After months of professional meetings, she asked if I wanted to get coffee, just coffee, not business. We talked for 4 hours about marine biology, family, and the burden of privilege. She grew up in a similar situation and understood my world. She never treated my work as a way to access money. Last month, I proposed to her on the beach near my parents' house. Her response was perfect. Yes, but can we have the reception at your parents' house? Your mom's casserole is legendary. We are planning a small ceremony this fall. Jessica wants my mother to cook, insisting on a celebration that reflects our values, not a performance for others. The contrast with Sable is stark. Jessica met my parents in that same ranch house and immediately connected with them. She saw what Sable missed, that people who earn wealth and live modestly understand what truly matters. As for Sable, word spread about her behavior, and she eventually moved to a different city. I hope she found what she was looking for, but I am glad it wasn't with me. My parents' gift attracted attention they didn't want, but it has led to other families with similar values supporting our conservation work. We are building something massive, quietly and consistently. The right partner doesn't just want to be part of your success story, they want to help you write it. Sable judged my parents by their furniture. Jessica sees them as role models. That is the difference between someone who wants to use your advantages and someone who shares your values. Jessica and I are now looking at houses, but we might just stay in my apartment above the tide pools. Some things don't need upgrading. We prioritize passion over pedigree, which seems like a good philosophy for life.